You know where now I would like to question you a little bit more in detail. How do you, it's a very naive amateur philosophical question. You not only feel a proximity to Leibniz's idea of monads, but also to his principle of sufficient reason or reasons. How do you combine this with this, for me, which is the basic lesson of quantum mechanics, this indeterminacy, openness?
Yes. How do I collect them? First, mathematically. So with Julian Barber, do you know Julian?
Yeah. Not personally, but yes, and yeah.
Yes, okay. Well, he was sort of my philosophical mentor just when I was getting my PhD. And my mentorship started when I was visiting him with a friend. And he said, you understand how this works just like Leibniz? And I said, who's Leibniz? And he said, we have a lot to talk about. So I spent the rest of the month there and went back many times. So for me, there is a function called the variety on any set which you would want to call complex. And how you define variety, we consider any pair of, what are they called? Let's call them views. What we see around you. When I look that way, I see a view of the world. When I look that way, I see a view of the world. We can talk about my entire view of the world. It's what I see when I look back in time. And if you compare my view with your view, you get a measure of the distance between us, which exists whether or not there's space between us. But the more different our views are, the more likely we are to be different, situated in the universe than we are. And then you sum that over all, you average that over all the pairs of views in nature. And that we call the total variety. And that we posit that is the variational principle. That is, Newton had his variational principle, the energy minus the potential energy, and so forth. And this is our proposal for an action principle. And if you take this apart, and there's a lot of work involved here, and go down, identify and then go down to a non-relativistic limit, you find, in Bohm's theory, there's a special function that exists on the configuration space, which tells you how the non-locality propagates. And we recover in that situation exactly Bohm's function. So that's specifically how we go from the notion of the world has as much variety as possible to the actual laws of motion of that world. And that's the best way I understand it. There's more obviously to say about it. But recently we've been making things work that is doing different subsystems of the universe. Of course, a very important question is how you treat a subsystem in a world like that. And it's very important also is really our first postulate, which we either borrow or steal from Leibniz, I'm not sure, which is that it asks the question, you have a theory of parts of the universe. I mean, Newton's laws or quantum mechanics are good descriptions of parts of the universe, but they don't tell you how to fit just a description of the world from all of the world together. And the reason is that if all of the world is in one description, then the observer and this world are all tied together. I have to figure out how to make that work really mathematically. And so that's our first principle, that a theory of cosmology must be fundamentally different than a theory of a small part of the world because of the different ways that they interact with their observers. Whoa. And
I'm sorry.
And so we'll start there, and we build, I should send it to you, but recently I'm trying to build one text which has all this in it. Actually, I'll tell you, may I show off a little bit one thing? The current thing that I'm playing with is an idea that the world is not described by a mathematical function evolving. The world is a game or a set of games. And when you learn physics, you learn to play a game. You're playing with the other users, with the other players, or even maybe against the universe itself. And we've been trying to find ways to start with that principle that the world is really a game and develop